The Amazing Digital Circus Episode 5 recently released, so let's go over some of the things I noticed while watching. But real quick, if you're new here and enjoy news, theories, and discussions about all things glitch, please consider subscribing to help us reach our goal of 30,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I'm confident that with your support, it will be more than possible. Also, check out our gaming channel too if you're into that sort of thing. The first thing that immediately stands out in the episode is that it actually opens with the gang already returning from an adventure. That's never happened before and really fits with the whole lightning round thing. Speaking of which, unfortunately my theory about Kane glitching out and going crazy was a bit off, and it was more so him just pitching future adventure ideas to get some much needed feedback. Ew, why is Kane so realistic here?
Alright, so I've got an adventure where you all tour my amazing magic chocolate factory and get killed off one by one from OSHA violations.
Huh, that's the second Willy Wonka reference we've gotten so far.
Where's the intrigue? The stakes?
Not to mention the sex appeal.
What are you talking about?
In the end, Kane decides to just do a lightning round of suggestion box ideas, with the cast being able to vote on skipping it. In my honest opinion, I think this was done just because the show is only going to have 9 episodes and they probably want to get all these adventure ideas out of the way while still maintaining that 9 episode limit. So, I mean, I guess it makes a little bit of sense why they would do that. Now, the first of these suggestions comes from Jax, who becomes a feral predator. Of course, he made Gangle the one thing that he was hunting. This also prompts everyone to vote on skipping the adventure, and Zooble votes on Jax becoming vegan for the rest of the episode, which actually works. Jax even brings attention to this during the bar scene. In the pilot, Kane mentions that he doesn't have control over any of their minds, and Jax even found that to be a bit odd. Is Kane lying? It really seems like the Tooth-Eye Man is hiding a lot more than he's leading on. Honestly, I already had a feeling this was the case from the very first episode, and with this episode being referred to as the quote-unquote silly before the storm, I believe that over the next few episodes, Kane will start to truly unravel. Okay, back to the adventures. The next one is also suggested by Jax, and for some reason he thinks that Pomni would be a good person to have in a position of power, because he makes her the President of the United States. Where we find out that Australia and New Zealand are at an ongoing war with each other. Pomni is just purely existing and has no idea what's going on, but don't worry, Kinger has the deets. We also find out that the US is trying to find a way to gain complete ownership of both Australia and New Zealand. You know, the fact that Glitch Productions is a studio based in Australia makes this even funnier. Also, you can't forget the baby headlamp. It's essential to any zone of contemplation. Jackson shows up as an Australian extremist and makes a joke that makes you realize who this show's target demographic is.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Oh, come on, of course Jax tortures Gangle in both of his suggestions. Thank you, Bubble. Anime! Real talk though, this is very unsurprising to see considering how huge Digital Circus is in Japan. And you already know that there's official promotional material just from this scene alone. Although I don't speak Japanese, I still like to follow the official Japanese Digital Circus Twitter account just to see all the unique merchant events that take place over there. I still plan on going to Japan in the hopefully not too distant future, and if I do, you bet your ass that I'm going to be filming all the Digital Circus stuff I see. I also really wanted to point out that in this shot during the anime segment, we actually can see some concept art for another glitch show, the Gaslight District. Gooseworks has made it very clear on just how much of a fan she is of the Gaslight District. She absolutely loves the show, so I'm not surprised in the slightest to see some representation. On a side note, please go watch the Gaslight District if you haven't. It doesn't even have 20 million views as of now, and I would really like it to get greenlit for a full season. That's all I have to say. Okay, back on topic. Now obviously this adventure idea came from Gangle, but man, hearing more of her past later on in the episode makes you just kinda sad. At one point, Gangle attended community college for graphic design, only for it to not really go anywhere, leading to her eventually dropping out. This show knows how to go from being super wacky to super depressing and relatable in a heartbeat.
You threw me out of a moving truck.
Also, a nice little reference to episode 2 right there. Speaking of callbacks to episode 2, Jax continues to torment Gangle about something she did to an anime figure. I don't think I want to know. Our next adventure takes us directly outside of the circus for the first time, and while this is a low-stakes adventure, it is also one of the adventures that gives us more insight into Jax's past. Well, kinda. Jax is actually somewhat vulnerable here, prompting Pomni to ask if he has any actual friends, to which Ragatha responds,
Not anymore.
This is one of the first times we've seen Jax this vulnerable, and it makes you wonder, who exactly was Ragatha talking about? She apologizes for it later on, but this ain't something you just glaze over. At first, you could assume that at one point, Jax and Ragatha had a much closer relationship, actually being friends. But I think she's referring to someone else close to Jax who had previously abstracted. You could assume that it was Kaufmo, seeing as Jax showed a bit of emotion right before his memorial in episode 2, not even showing up to it. But I personally think the reason why Jax behaved this way is because it reminds him of who abstracted right before Kaufmo, a character named Ribbit, who we briefly see the door of during the intermission. And who exactly is standing right in front of the door? Jax, of course. I have a theory that maybe this is why Jax acts the way he does and lacks proper empathy, because he lost it all when he lost Ribbit. I also wonder if this is why Jax and Pomni have been getting closer with each other, because Pomni reminds Jax of Ribbit. I mean, come on, look at her. She even has the same blush. I'll finish off what I have to say about Jax in a moment, but first I need to know, why is the moon so horny? The most lore from the episode definitely came out of the bar scene though, where we discovered that Zubul used to be a bartender as well as a tattoo artist. Gooseworks did previously confirm that they were a tattoo artist at one point in a Tumblr post, but it's nice to know that this isn't just lore you have to search for through outside media and is actually explained in the show itself. I know, it was probably obvious that it would be explained at some point, but there are some examples out there of shows that do that, so it's nice to know that Digital Circus isn't like that. In fact, I think that Digital Circus may unironically have some of the most consistent writing I've ever seen in an animated show. I say unironically because although the show is absolutely peak, a lot of the outside demographic that only know about the show because of hearing about the brain rot and content farms don't think the show itself surpasses that quality despite not actually having watched it themselves. But when separating the show from the brain rot, you'll find that it's the complete opposite. Sorry for the Digital Circus glazing, but what did you expect? I'm a glitch channel. Now, when it comes to Ragatha in this episode, we actually learn a lot about her. In episode 4, she hinted at owning horses in the real world, but here we get the full picture. She was a farm girl born into a wealthy family and was the target of an abusive mother. She stops herself before bottling everything back in. It's unfortunately pretty common in affluent families where parents have very high and unrealistic expectations of their children, and this can definitely be seen in Ragatha when it comes to her overly optimistic personality, to the point where it just comes off as toxic positivity. She even apologized after actually lashing out for once, bottling everything up once again. Now, when it comes to Jax talking about his backstory, I was so caught off guard at first when he mentioned having lung cancer, but then immediately realized that he was referencing Breaking Bad. A man of culture, I see. Pomni had the most telling backstory, as it may directly tie into her getting trapped in the digital circus. She mentioned that she used to be an accountant for a supermarket chain, but would often get bored of her life and seek out mild thrills. One of them being exploring abandoned buildings and posting videos of it online. A YouTuber. Well, I mean, nobody watched them, but you know. That tells us a lot about what exactly she was doing leading up to her getting trapped. And if my theory is correct, then she likely captured footage of the moments before. Maybe she set the camera down right before putting the headset on, with the camera continuing to record until it eventually ran out of storage or battery. And if that's the case, then I wonder if we'll ever get to see that footage before the end of the series. It also looks like nobody besides Pomni knows about Kinger's wife. Oh neat, another CNA logo. Here, not only are we introduced to the best character in the entire series, Disappearing Guy, gets me every time, but we find out that Jax is actually afraid of corn. Look, I don't care for corn all too much either unless it's popped, but now you're just being a little bitch about it. The final adventure we go on in the episode is, funnily enough, the adventure that had been rumored from the very start. Ever since people started speculating about episode 5, people speculated that it would be about softball, and that seems to be the case. Here the gang go up against evil versions of themselves, known as the Evil Big Tops, going up against the Big Tops, of course. Everyone except Gangle, obviously. Apparently the only reason why she was replaced with Evil Orbsman here is because Gooseworks thought it would be funny if she was forgotten. Also, I'd like to point out that out of all adventures up to this point, this one has the largest amount of CNA logos. It could always mean absolutely nothing and just be something to fill in the empty space, but I don't know, I just thought it was worth pointing out. It just seemed interesting to me. Why does this show keep reminding us of what we've lost? We also see some other advertisements, including one for Spudsies and Kaufmo Tire. This just gives off heavy Mario Kart ad energy. Jack's in a maid outfit is great though because it's actually referencing artwork that Gooseworks posted a while back. Notice how Pomni didn't vote for that? That's actually kinda wholesome, especially when you look at their relationship in the episode. I would like to finish this video by going back to Jax and discussing what he could be showing Pomni at the end of the episode. We actually see them potentially talking about this during the softball scene, with Ragatha not looking too happy with their newfound friendship. But I honestly believe, especially with episode 6 having a heavy focus on Jax, that not only is Jax about to show Pomni his room, which has been shrouded in mystery up to this point, but Jax will finally open up to Pomni and explain his backstory. This could be done in a similar way to Pomni and Kinger's one-on-one in episode 3. I know it's a popular theory to assume that Jax is an NPC, but at this point, I don't believe that's the case at all, and that he's just a broken individual suffering loss in his own demented way. The episode ends with this unknown mannequin spying on Pomni and Jax. This same mannequin can be seen at the start of the episode as well. But what if I told you that this isn't the first time we've seen this mannequin? That's because the same one can be seen spying on everyone at the start of episode 3. Now obviously this mannequin is important, but to what extent, we don't know. Maybe they're not actually an NPC and is instead another human. Potentially a moderator for the game, perhaps? Abel, is that you? That or it could just be Dr. Football. Regardless of what happens, Gooseworks was right. This episode was indeed the silly before the storm. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video. This time around, I wanted to focus less on the tiny little details and more on the lore-heavy stuff. With us now being officially halfway through the series, it was only a matter of time before the show started to shift into that direction more, and I'm excited, yet scared, to see where we go from here. If there's anything you noticed in the episode, be sure to let me know down in the comments, as well as just letting me know your overall thoughts on the episode. But yeah, be sure to drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it, as well as please consider subscribing to help get this channel to 30,000 subscribers. I know we can do it, guys. Alright, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time guys, this is Inferno signing off.